All right, welcome to the show. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell every Saturday on iHeartRadio, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. and live right here on Facebook and also on our YouTube page. We stream our audio every weekend to iHeartRadio and also to Spotify and every streaming platform you can think of. iTunes, it doesn't matter. We are everywhere. You can stream as well as on our Facebook page. That's right. It has been going down for about 5 weeks now. We've had it there live on Facebook and all over our YouTube page. And again, our audio is everywhere. You can go to Spotify right now and listen to any of our previous shows. We do have them titled to say who the guest is of the show and what the topic is. And our full-time resident and legal counsel, Hans Kennon, is here. What's going on?
Hey, glad to be here. Part of the number 5, I guess, Ron. Like you said, week number 5 going live.
Going live. That's right.
Very nice.
All right, now.
And
Sorry,
Joe has no.
We got to get the presentation this week, please.
Oh, here we go.
Right.
Now let me set it up here. Every Tuesday now and every week, Hans has agreed to not wear the same suit at any given time, so you will not catch him in the same suit. All right, let's check it out.
Okay,
let's do it.
Dapper suit of the day.
Look at that. That's beautiful. Yeah, that's right. We got that. That is a dashing. Is that magenta?
It could be considered that. Yes, I'll go with that.
Or
would you go with fuchsia or
chartreuse? I can tell you this. I can tell you this. It is sharp. That's
very nice.
It is very dapper.
right. Promises made, promises kept.
That's all I can do.
Hans Kennon there.
And Hans Kennon is an attorney with Morgan & Morgan and is here to answer the questions you may have and to clean up some of the wrong things that we may say allegedly.
We have a lot of opinions here, no facts.
That's right.
Primarily.
Right, allegedly, and we opine.
You know, yesterday's
here on the
news
show.
tomorrow. You know, always yesterday's news tomorrow. And remember, it is better to be first and wrong than second and right.
Good call there. Good call. I'm your host, Richie Kidwell, and today we have a special guest. He's a public adjuster with Central Florida Property Claims. His name is André Kratt. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing excellent.
And I said it wrong. It is André, and I added too many letters to his name. I'm going full adding things there, but André, what's going on, man? How are you?
Oh, I'm doing excellent. How about yourself?
Awesome. And you're here in Central Florida, which is great. It's where we do the show, but we have a reach everywhere. People from even California, we got a message that said, wow, isn't Florida a dumpster fire over there? I love tuning into your show and hearing what's going on in Florida. Here we are in California with way different laws and rules and regulations, and seemingly better for the consumer in many of the blue states. There's still 10 states here in the United States that allow for what they call or consider prevailing party attorney's fees for the homeowner. And why that's so important is because if you're fighting over $10,000, for instance, like on a roof claim or a small plumbing claim, and that's everything to you because you're not saving up for that time of loss that you need because you're paying for your insurance. Right. Well, $10,000 is a lot of money to somebody that needs exactly $10,000. So the way it's been here in Florida since 1897 or 1893, whatever it is, Supreme Court case law said that if you have a dispute against your insurer, and you win, then the attorney's fees are paid by the insurance company. Yep. And you get a full amount of your what they call indemnity, the $10,000 you need to put on the roof. But now if you have to hire an expert and pay your attorney's fees and all that, and like when I saw John Morgan a couple months ago, and he was like, when we lost the attorney's fees here in Florida, he said, I just felt bad on taking these $10,000 claims. That's why he was talking about pushing the not doing property anymore, which we know Morgan & Morgan is accepting property claims here in the state of Florida. Call Hans Kennon. And he was saying, I feel bad. I didn't want to look a homeowner straight in the face and say, hey, I know you have a $10,000 loss and you need every penny of that $10,000, but I'm going to have to take $4,000 and you're going to get $6,000. Yeah. And he says, I can't do that. You know, whereas years, you've said no recovery, no fee, and also you get 100% of your award. Now they strip that away from us all, and it's a much different conversation today.
And it was a tough decision. I mean, a lot of what John talked about is true, but clients keep calling. People still call and say, look, I'm not getting anything from my insurer. They're paying me under deductible. So for the conversation you have to have now, albeit a different one than we had I've been with John for 23 years. So for 21 years, I said, don't worry, you never pay me a dime. You'll get all your money. People still say, look, I need whatever help you can provide. So even though it's not what we used to do, we're still doing well and doing good, as Johnny Cochran would have said many years ago. Right. So we're taking the claims and help people today, help people tomorrow.
That's great. And it's good to understand now, if you did hear that Morgan & Morgan isn't taking property claims or out of the game. That's not true.
No.
Hans will test and will get you signed up if you need help.
Absolutely.
And to prepare your package before then, that sounded weird, to review your policy with you. Thank you. Nice package. You have a public adjuster that can assist and jump in with you before you go to the litigation period. Because sometimes a homeowner comes to Hans with just a bunch of duties that they did not perform that would then break their obligation and their policy that a public adjuster would pick up right off rip, right? And so I'd love to hear from you, Andre, on how you're helping insureds today to really put together the claim package for them to ensure what coverages they have and what they don't. As I've said before, there's only public adjusters and attorneys are the only ones that can talk to you about if you're an insured, to describe what you're covered for within your policy. Of course, you can call your agent, but when you need the help, your agent's usually like, I don't know, call the carrier, make a claim. I don't know, I'm done. So then you need to advance to the next stage, which is call a public adjuster. And the good thing is that, I have you guys here today, is that people think of it's like, if you have an advanced knowledge of working with a public adjuster and an attorney, you're like, oh man, I don't want to get hit twice on fees.
Sure.
I'm sure Andre's nodding his head already. Hans does something a little bit interesting, is he'll charge his normal fees, but wrap the PA's fees within his fees.
Yep. We do it often if someone comes to us with a public adjuster and they're concerned about what they view as kind of, sometimes they'll call like, well, you're double dipping. Well, we're not. We're each providing an individualized service, but what I'm willing to do, depending on agreements I have with some of the public adjusters, I'll say, look, I'll reduce my fee, you reduce your fee, we'll wrap it in. So the insured gets the benefit of the public adjuster's knowledge, advice, site visits, estimates, photographs, whatever they may have, and then I can utilize that in getting the claim resolved if they cannot, and we can all it won't cost the insured any more than it would have cost them by just having me.
And that's great. I mean, and both of you work off no recovery, no fee, so it really doesn't cost the homeowner anything to get a lot of work done up front.
Absolutely. Actually, I love that you do that, because I had a situation recently to where, we handled the claim for maybe 60 to 90 days. And then we did have to get an attorney like Hans involved. And then from that point, it was maybe 8 to 9 months. The claim was settled and it was a successful result. But the homeowner did ask that question, hey, why am I paying you so much for your fee? And, how are we going to make that a win for everybody? And at the end of the day, you mentioned, what does a PA do in the beginning? Well, we take the claim and make sure the claim is filed correctly. We put the package together so that when we hand it over to Hans, it's an easy process, right? From there, it's, okay, hey, here's everything that's happened. Here's our estimates. Here's our experts. And now he can do his job to get it actually pushed over to the last step.
I can tell you without a public adjuster on a lot of these claims, the insureds come to us with all good intentions. But if there's things like sworn statements and proof of loss, which is an archaic term anyway, you say to insured, did you fill out your sworn statement and proof of loss? They're like,
what is that?
I don't even know what that is. And certain carriers like State Farm and Tower Hill require a sworn statement of proof of loss from 60 days from the date of loss, so you can jeopardize your coverage.
Yeah, Snake Farm had it from the very beginning.
Yes,
back in the days, 10 years ago, they would surprise you with it because it's stated in their policy. You have to turn in your proof of loss, whether requested or not.
Yes.
Whereas every other policy says you must have it requested and then turn it in with that 60 days upon request.
Yeah. So those two insurers did that. So everything the PA does at the beginning, reservation of rights, people don't know what that is. People like carriers like Universal always have a list of things they want you to send them that have no basis, no need, no relevance, but it's still a condition. So people, they call me and go, well, did you send them your home renovation statement, your mortgage statement? And they're like, no, why do I have to do that? Because that's what the letter says. And PAs, again, are very good at the front end because they're there. They're like first responders. They're like the firemen of insurance claims. They're there. They really are. They're there first. I mean, I don't typically get involved until the claim is either underpaid or denied.
Yeah, you'd mess up your suit for sure, getting on the roof, taking pictures.
Especially in summer.
Right. But, so stick around throughout the break. We'll talk more about how to work with a public adjuster, review the insured as damages to your claim, and how to reach André as well, too. So we'll get to his contact information and then also how to reach Hans Kennon if you do need that help to push the claim further. Here's the show for you. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. All right, and we're back. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell, building damage experts, live every Saturday on iHeartRadio, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m., and streaming everywhere you can think of, whether it be iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, on our own website, contractortalkpodcast.com, and of course here on Facebook. Best place to reach us, you can email us or you can just hit us up on our Facebook page if you have a question, comment, concern, you want to share something for the show, because we do record it before it plays on Saturday. We used to do live where you used to call in and stuff like that, but iHeart Studios, since we switched over to iHeart, isn't open on the weekends. So because we don't have a weekday show, we have to record it before, but that gave us a great opportunity to do a podcast and film it. So now we're on, like I was telling Andre, we're on 3 different ways now. You know, we're on Facebook Live, and then we take that whole produced podcast for the hour and 20 minutes, post-produce that, push that onto our YouTube page. It goes everywhere from YouTube. And then we're on iHeartRadio and every streaming as well on Spotify and all that. So you really can't miss us anywhere you go. You can take us anywhere from your phone, Spotify, all that fun stuff. So right here, Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. Today, we have André Kratt with Central Florida Property Claims discussing, well, today we're going to talk about some weird limits that you may not know about and when you may need a public adjuster, what they do. Do you even know what a public adjuster is? I mean, let's talk about that first. And we have Hans Kennon with Morgan today, and this is a great duo because this is really what insureds need to know if they have that one time of loss, that one time of their life, or they have a property damage loss that supersedes their deductible and they have questions. I have an example of one of my friends that has a Florida Penn policy, a Florida Peninsula policy. But we'll get into that, but I'd love to hear from Andre to talk about how your conversation is with somebody that is just now learning what a public adjuster is and what they do, because I'm sure you understand that a lot. In South Florida, everybody knows what a public adjuster is.
Absolutely.
There's commercials on every radio station. In Central Florida, it's like, what, a PA? What is that?
Yeah, I would say the majority of Florida is still like that. You know, a lot of our industry is still educating and then selling, right? Hey, here's what we are. We're not a fake industry. A lot of times people say, is that real? And, I have to explain to them, hey, this is what we do. And the short answer to what we do is we're someone who's licensed by the state of Florida to go ahead and take the stress and hassle out of dealing with these insurance companies and make sure that you're paid a fair settlement at the end of the day. That's a short answer, right? Because the technical answer, no one knows. So at the end of the day, we're here to represent the homeowners, to make sure that they're paid fairly. And then once again, if for some reason we can't get to the finish line, then we have a file that's put together to hand over to an attorney like Hans.
That's great. That's great. And we talked about how the laws have changed. We've all heard about the governor giving a gift to the insurance lobby, right? And I think that's what most people heard on the mainstream radio or the mainstream media. And that's exactly what happened. What you look at the details and you see that our rights as homeowners were slowly eroded over 4 different sessions. 2 or 3 special sessions and a regular session that just went ahead and ripped the heart out of the rest of the consumers who may have a dispute against their insurance carrier, and not just property. They did all that in 2 special sessions or 3 special sessions. They just totally eroded an AOB or assignment and any other rights or privileges that a contractor would have, right? And taking away and stripping away their rights for prevailing party attorney's fees. And they took it a step further in March of this year and reached out and touched someone, and they took away prevailing party attorney's fees from medical, from auto, and life insurance. Meaning if you have a dispute against your insurance carrier for auto and saying, well, no, I mean, you were supposed to give me $5,000. That's what those repairs cost, but you gave me $3,000. And the insurer is going to be like, yep, what are you going to do now? Whereas before, you would take that $2,000 indifference to Hans, and he's going to get you $2,000.
You bet.
Right? And he's going to get his fees and costs paid on top of that. Not in today's world. You know, and then you're looking at these property damages losses, and like I said, a $10,000 roof loss, you're going to need every penny of that $10,000 to replace it. So what do you do? And now the conversation is going to more like, well, 70% of something is better than 100% of nothing. And you're trying to keep it positive that way. And like you're saying, you're still getting calls, Hans, because they understand you're going to have to take a piece of it now. Yeah. But they still need your service.
Yeah, I mean, if they have a $10,000 roof and I can get them $7,000, that's 70%. And they come to me typically with 0. So we take them a long way down the field. But there's just cost of doing some of that business. That's all.
Right. And we're talking about calling a public adjuster first. If you don't know what they do, maybe it's a good idea to call André. And I'm sure most of people do. I didn't ask you off site, so I won't put you on I'm gonna put you on the spot. Most of them offer like a free policy review, right? I mean, and that's something you provide as a public adjuster to insureds?
Yeah, absolutely. We have that on our website. You can submit a form to cflclaims.com. And that is something newer that we started to do, because we've been running into these policies that people have no idea what's in their policy. And then you find out that you have a 5% wind deductible now. And now you find out that your wind deductible is actually more than your roof. So you essentially have no coverage for your roof. And no one would ever know that, right?
Unless it's vandalized or catches on fire.
Right. Yeah. Great clarification there. Yeah.
Like lava. It's probably for lava. It's okay.
We were on I remember one of my guys were on a roof in whatever part of Florida. Let's say a not safe part of Florida, and they were on the roof doing the inspection, and they one of them pulled out a bullet out of the shingles, and was like, huh. And it was like, well, we're looking for wind damage. I said, take a picture of that. That looks like vandalism to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's funny we say that, because you go to California, they don't have fire protection there, right? They have plenty of hurricane protection over there, right? But their fire is now put on a different what do they call it, a rider or different.
Yeah. It's like here in Florida a lot. Like State Farm will write a homeowners policy, but doesn't want to write wind. So you buy a wind rider from Citizens, and now so there's a variety of ways where the insurers limit their exposure. A lot of it is by sending people to Citizens to buy the coverage that insurer doesn't want to provide.
And Citizens with 1.4 million and growing, but then they sell more to Brian over at Slide. So he's got it going on, man. The guy started Heritage in 2014, bought 400,000 policies from Citizens under Heritage. Then became one of the larger insurance companies, the top 10 in the state of Florida, really quick. He was the one in the article, though, that got binged for making $27.5 million in 2017, while getting a 14.9% increase the same year. I'm like, wow. One guy's making $500,000 every week. Every week you're paying him $500,000, and he just got approved for 14.9% increase.
Because they're going broke.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. They also took some of those St. John's policies. Slide.
So later on down the road, was it that? Was it, well, they took UPC for sure. They took the 91,000 policies from UPC. All the claims from UPC went to FIGA. All the good policies went over to Slide. And what was it? FedNat rolled into Monarch. And what happened to Frontline? Did they just poo-poo out? I don't know if they rolled in.
I don't know if they went to anybody or not.
No, they just got so many fines from Louisiana. They were doing the same game in Louisiana they were doing in Florida, slow walking people and everything. Louisiana didn't have it after the hurricane, and they were slamming them with fines in Louisiana. So they were like, oh, we're going broke. We actually got to pay people and do stuff.
That's good to hear their legislation took care of that, though.
Oh, they were quick and very Louisiana. One thing, their Office of Insurance Regulation does not play around. Florida, they play around. And they allow the insurance lobby to run whatever they want to run. And it got worse, especially under DeSantis. And I love DeSantis. I voted for him twice.
Same
but
here.
Being bought out by the insurance lobby is something I can't take. He turned into a dictator and literally pushed these bills through for this insurance reform and said not one comma, not one period can be changed. Literally pushed it through. Nobody was allowed to do anything. Legislators weren't allowed to legislate. It was a bad year last year. We have a new Speaker of the House coming in. I think that's going to really help.
But not now.
Not now.
Another year.
Another year. So we are in this space to where, well, we have our governor for 2 more years.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Okay, so then no, Danny's coming in this year for this year.
He comes in immediately after the session ends.
Oh, poo-poo pants. All right, well.
I'm
we have to go look at that.
I'm confident about that, but we can certainly look.
Good. All right. We'll talk about that and what we think is going to happen in the legislative session that's going to start here January 9th of this year. That may affect the way we look at or see insurance contracts. We'll see. We'll take a break here with Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. We'll be right back after the break. All right, and we're back. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell, building damage experts, live every Saturday on iHeartRadio, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. And right here on Facebook World right now, we are recording this live in our podcast room in Central Florida here. Special guest, André Kratt with Central Florida Property Claims is here with us today. What's going on?
Oh, out here loving it, trying to settle some claims.
That's right. I mean, that is the name of the game here. And the insurance companies have not made it easy for anybody to settle claims now,
That's for sure.
especially if you're a tile roof.
Oh, yeah.
And to help you with that process is attorney Hans Kennon with Morgan & Morgan. What's going on?
No, glad to be back again. Yet another week in a chair here trying to figure things out for people and help people.
That's right. That's right. And it makes it difficult to help people with the policies that they're given right now in the state of Florida. It's crazy. It is unbelievable. Like I said last segment, I mean, we have seen Office of Insurance Regulation rubber stamp crazy increases where carriers did not need the increase. And they were also rubber stamping over the past 2 years, rubber stamping policy change that have greatly affected what we have available to us in our policy. Because think about it. Let's say round even numbers. I have a policy that I bought. I was saving up my entire life to buy this, and I had a dream, whatever. Anyways, for $500,000, I have a $500,000 coverage A policy.
Right.
And let's say I have some real damage that occurred. I'm going to use a real life experience here. My friend noticed that their dishwasher drain line had a leak in it, and they only noticed it because when they were running it for a while back to back, they saw water on the floor. So they investigated a little further, and they had the appliance guy come out and says, I think this is broken. They thought it was a supply line. It wasn't. They ran it several times and found out, hey, this has been going on for the past week, where it's been just right behind the built-in dishwasher. So it was all behind that, and it's in an island. I said, okay, I'm just helping another friend out here. I'm not advising any policy coverages or anything, but who do you have? Well, Florida Peninsula. Oh, email me the policy. I'd be happy to help you. At least read it, And so they have what, scarily enough, which I would hate to have in my policy, which Florida Peninsula is one of many. Of course, American Disintegrity was the first one that got this policy allotment, but we've heard a lot about it in the industry about the 1% matching statute. Or, sorry, not the statute, but 1% matching. What did we call it? It was a limitation.
Limitation of liability.
Limitation of liability. And let me tell you what Florida Peninsula has and many other insurance companies have gotten approved. I bring up the $500,000 coverage A for a reason, right? You're in the state of Florida. The Florida statute suggests and state that when you buy an HO3 policy, that you get two things. You get replacement cost value and ordinance and law. And we've seen that ordinance law can be excluded now with a separate signature or whichever, but they have to give you that. Now, within the statute, it goes further on to talk about matching as well, too. I think it's a 62471, whatever. There's a different statute that suggests to the insurance carrier that if you, let's talk about a roof, let's talk about flooring, if there are damaged portions that are covered under the policy, and you have, I was going to say line of sight, but you have to be careful about the words.
Yeah, like primarily you start with an adjoining material that's the same. That's the same.
Correct. So let's say you're in a 10 by 10 room and 2 feet or 3 feet of that 10-foot room is affected and damaged and it's qualified. Everybody sees it's damaged, and you remove that to stop the damage. Well, the state of Florida and the statute states that if that's a covered loss, then how we want to say it, the remainder of that whole floor would have to be replaced.
It's undamaged.
That is undamaged, right? To ensure that it has uniformity. That's right, and it matches. Right. So because you have to replace like with like kind, color, and material. So we talk about the roofs like that. There's a trigger of more than 25% of the roof damage, or if the roof is damaged, Florida Building Code says that it cannot be repaired. It must be replaced. So that's arguably covered peril, and then the remainder on ordinance and law, or should be covered under coverage A. Because again, you're going to, I have $500,000 in coverage. Woo! It's definitely going to cover my expensive floors, my expensive kitchen, which you're looking at a kitchen now. If the lower cabinets are affected, well, you cannot match lower cabinets that have been in there for 30 years against the uppers. Right? And so I just read the policy and I called her. I said, good news, bad news. Good news is you got coverage. Bad news is there's going to be an issue. And what is the issue? And I said, well, let me read you the policy. And this is going to be interpreted possibly differently. So we'll see how it goes. But this is what they call matching of undamaged property special limit of liability.
Yes.
And this is from a Florida Peninsula HO3 policy. Matching of undamaged property. We will repair or replace undamaged property due to mismatch between undamaged material and new material in adjoining areas if repairs or replacement are reasonable. I'm like, all right, so far this is good. Okay, we'll replace it all. Cool. And they said, but in determining the extent of the repairs or replacement of items in adjoining areas, we will consider the following. The cost of repairing or replacing the undamaged portions of the property. So they're going to take into consideration the cost of it. So if it's too much, we'll be like, nah, we don't like it. The degree of uniformity that can be achieved without such cost. Those two. Number 3, the remaining useful life of the unchanged portion. And 4, other relevant factors. So, and they're suggesting that it is a total limit of liability for coverages A and for coverage B. So as you know, coverage A is the total amount of the main structure. B is for buildings. You're going to have like your she sheds and things like that that are going to be covered under that. So they're saying that if your she shed has effective floor, the floor is affected by a covered loss, that the separate building and or the house will be limited to 1% of the policy. So does that mean that if the floor, let's say we're at that $500,000 coverage A, the floor costs $20,000 to replace. You're telling me that we're going to get only $5,000 to replace the floor, or did I do the math wrong?
No, that would be correct. Yes, your math is correct, even as sad as that may be. I always say that
holy cow,
insurance policies, the declaration sheet, which is what most people read, most people look at the declaration sheet. Then the agent will say, look, this is how much coverage you have. Coverage A, coverage B, coverage C, coverage D. We can go through all those. But they're the total limit of liability the insurer has. And I call that's the fire hose. You're like, I got tons of money in case something goes wrong.
Right.
And then the eyedroppers, when you get back to the special limitation of liability, and they say, you know that $500,000 you have, we'll give you 1% of it to match all the undamaged material. And if you have a loss in your house that involves more than one thing that matches, it doesn't matter. That loss, whatever that date of loss is, would apply that $5,000.
See, and arguably, I would say, well, you owe me 1% of the ceiling, 1% of the floor, 1% of the kitchen cabinets, 1% of that, instead of like, and so this limitation seems to be riddled with holes. Right, I mean,
because it's very ambiguous. So I like where you're going with it. Is okay. Well, let's see what these words could mean. Right. What is reasonable? Mean, right. What is the cost of? Do
you have any Florida Peninsula or American Disintegrity claims right now that have this matching, and how are you dealing with it as a public adjuster?
Yeah, so I've ran into a few with this 1%. Haven't gotten all the way to the end yet, so I couldn't tell you just yet. But the American Integrity one is where I do find that a lot, and I was gonna actually ask Hans a similar question to where I know that American Integrity's matching does not hold up. Every claim I've had with them, maybe if they give us a hard time on 90% of them and have to pass it over to an attorney, they're still getting paid. Because in the courtroom, they're losing every time.
And it still exists. I mean, often insurers primarily use the chilling effect more than they do anything else. But when they tell an insured, hey, this is how it's going to be, most insureds go, okay. And then they go away. And there's a small percentage of them who go to someone like André or come to myself and go, I don't think that's right. So a lot of times the insurers aren't looking to test the provisions of their policy. They're looking to assert them against someone who's unsophisticated and it's not going to cause them trouble. So it's easier for them to pay it, have my client sign a release of claims of confidentiality, pay them for that matching loss instead of going through with the challenge of it to some appellate court, which might say that it simply doesn't hold up.
And then at that point, they lose that forever.
Right.
It's just crazy, the hoops that they make us jump through to get the money that we already deserve, which is insane. And then they take away the attorney's fees, which is huge. That means that you have to come out of your pocket to get the money that you already owed, which is insane. Insult to injury. All right, so we're going to take a break here on Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. We'll be right back. Give some thanks to our sponsors.
Doesn't have my address, does it, John?
Welcome back to the show, Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell, building damage experts, live every Saturday on iHeartRadio, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. and right here on Facebook. What's going on? We're filming this live, and the shenanigans that happen while we're filming it in our Central Florida podcast studio. For you, the listeners here in the Central Florida area and all over the United States, you can listen to us, well, anywhere really, where Spotify exists or any platform that does the audio streaming anywhere. Our YouTube page, and you can even go to our website, contractortalkpodcast.com. You can find us everywhere. All right, so today we have a special guest. André Kratt with Central Florida Property Claims is here to talk to you, the insureds, about the one time of loss where you may need that assistance and help. This is the person you call if you are in need, if you have an insurance claim, and it doesn't matter what type of insurance. I imagine you'll take on car stuff and plane stuff and property stuff, everything, right? I mean, if there's a claim to be filed, you can file it and help the insureds out.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the best things I learned when I was young in sales. It says, as a professional, you know what you don't know, and you know what you know, right? So if you don't know it, figure out who's going to help you and get them on board.
That's right.
When you do adjusting a property, like if someone's homeowners claim, do you guys handle the internal, like the personal property, or is that something you guys bring someone else in to do, or how do you do that?
Primarily, we're going to handle that in-house, definitely. Okay. So we'll handle it in-house. If it's something that's, maybe a commercial property or I guess that's going to be a little different, but yes, we'll handle personal property in general. Yeah.
Oh, good. Nice. It comes to an end. I tell a story. I had a lady come to me who did her own inventory, and it was shocking the things she left off her own, like walking around her own house, the stuff. I'm like, and I remember I said, you don't have silverware on your list of. You know what? I didn't open the drawers. Absolutely. I wasn't even thinking no pizza cutter, no spatula, no. And the older lady, very sweet, but she literally said, "I just didn't open any of the cabinets or the drawers."
Yeah, typically what I'll do is I'll have the insured go ahead and do their own, and then I'll walk around my own house and say, "Okay, what did they forget?" Because I have all my things here still, so it's a little easier.
Right. Something that is a normal item that you would have in your household that you need to include. Fires, things like that, where you guys go through and look at what's salvageable, unsalvageable, put a value to that for replacement from the insurance company. If you don't put it out there, they're not going to give it to you. They're definitely not going to come in and inventory your house and give you money for your inventory of the stuff that you lost.
Not at all.
It's just not going to happen. They're not also going to, and something that homeowners don't know is if you are unable to use your kitchen, for instance, and you have to go to McDonald's or you're eating out all the time, you can save those receipts.
Oh, yeah.
Give it to your public adjuster, your attorney, or give it to the insurance company and seek reimbursement for that.
One thing comes up occasionally on fire claims, more so than others, under the additional living expense coverage, which is considered coverage D under most policies, is I've had clients who have gone out and purchased recreational vehicles instead of renting a hotel. And we never had any definitive battle, but insurers won't pay you if you purchase an asset as a result of that loss. State Farm, we had a big fight, and it just took care of itself through other means. But they'll say that an ALE is a cost incurred coverage, and they'll pay for the hotel, but they won't pay for you to get something of value, which I thought was interesting. So I don't know, Andre, if you've ever come across, I've had people who have purchased RVs before, and again, we got the cases resolved, but it was certainly a big argument as to whether or not you're entitled to obtain an asset under the ALE cost incurred coverage.
So then would you have to amortize that and make it a monthly payment then and be like, it's $4,000 a month?
I mean, you can. Again, it's only happened a couple of times, but it's happened a couple of times where I said folks have purchased it and said, well, hey, it's cheaper than a hotel. And they're right. It actually is a money savings to the insurer. And the insurers were like, we're not buying an asset. We'll pay for the hotel, we'll pay for the food, but we're not paying for it. When this is all done, ALE does not result in you having an asset, which I just thought was an interesting thing to do.
I guess that's perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah. And that situation there, I've had it one time when we were able to negotiate the ALE up front. So they said, okay, here's a check.
Oh, there you go.
We don't really care what you're doing
how
with
you
it.
spend it.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
There you go.
Right.
That was the benefit there.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah,
and again, you usually won't be able to negotiate that yourself. If you're listening now, you're not going to be able to do that yourself if you don't know this industry. You definitely need to call a public adjuster or an attorney to help you and assist you to tell you what you can and cannot get reimbursed for, or what is cost incurred versus what they owe you for now. And do they owe you for ACV before you do the repairs and then RCV after? Is that why there's so many questions you may have as a homeowner first time making a claim? So Andre, if they do still maybe need to file a Hurricane Ian claim, even though it's 1 year after, whichever, you still do it for 2 years. You can still do it. But if they need to reach you for any type of claim questions, how can they reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. You actually reach me on my direct line. It's 321-977-1388. Call or text. Text is great, usually quicker because I'm in meetings all the time. Also at our website, it's cflclaims.com. And then my email is andre@cflclaims.com.
Perfect. Awesome. Great. And that's something that's really well-rounded. I like to, because Hans gives out his contact information, says, put this in your phone. You'll never know when you need an attorney. And it's the same. You never know when you're going to need a public adjuster. Just a call or text, and just to have right there and say, send maybe a picture of your deck page and say, what is this, good or bad? And then when you're shopping the next year, if it's a good policy, what to look for. What does Hans always say? It's not really the policy you want to look at, it's the exclusions.
Oh, yeah. They get you. That's where they get you all the time. We had to come up recently. There's a roof schedule that comes out now in a lot of policies where it basically between 0 and 25 years. I think maybe one of them goes to 30. And every year you own your roof, the percentage of their payment to you, if it's let's assume the roof's a total loss. Every year, the percentage of what they owe you goes down. So at about a year 14, it's down to 25% from 100%. And so that way, even if you got full value for your roof, they then multiply that by the roof schedule. I had a guy recently had a 15-year-old roof. The roof was whatever it was, $20,000, and so they said, okay, your best day we owe you $5,000. So you can put the case in litigation, do whatever you want. Your best day is $5,000. And I said, well, the schedule says that there's a premium savings. And he's like, yeah, there is. I said, but if you go to the deck sheet and all the pages attached, it doesn't show a discount. The discount's not reflected on the deck sheet. And typically, if there's going to be a reduction,
so there has to be an exchange. If you're going to give up RCV, there has to be exchange.
Some consideration, especially if they're claiming that's what it is. And I got in a big beef with the guy. I think it was with Heritage. And I said, he goes, well, they basically literally said, he goes, well, they kind of take it at the home office, like they subtract it out. I'm like, well, how much was it? He's like, well, I don't know. I'm like, well,
yeah, no way.
Why is that not on the deck?
Send subpoena to get those records.
Yeah, I'm just like, I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, I don't. I goes, but they take it off. They take it off like at home office. I'm like, how does the insured know what the premium reduction is as a result of giving up all these rights? He's like, it's not there. I'm like, okay, I just want to make sure we all agree. It doesn't say it anywhere. So we did that a couple times. So
wow.
So so when you go to the agent and you say it's time to get a new policy, again he'll say, oh, you have $500,000 in coverage, and you're like, yes, I'm good. And then you find out, like we talked about in the prior section, when you get to the limitation section, all of a sudden they go, yeah, but we're only going to give you 1% of that, no matter how the extent of your loss.
Your best day is $5,000.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like, holy cow! Like, I can have a loss, and if it's not a fire or vandalism, then I'm stuck with $5,000.
Yep. The same thing for like mold. We talk about mold's typically $10,000. Damage, water damage is typically limited to $10,000. You have wind-only policies or no wind coverage whatsoever. In Florida all the time. You have to
I saw that after Hurricane Irma.
Yes.
And it was down in the Keys.
Yeah.
The guy had a wind exclusion. I'm like, wow.
And they call you and you go, sir, I don't even know what to tell you. I said,
where did you pick this crap up from? That's what I want to know. Like, what bad agent sold you this policy?
Right. When you're working in the field, like I'm working directly with the homeowners always, and you ask them, you have no idea you had this, right? Every time. No idea.
They never know.
No idea. Zero coverage.
The agent said it was going to be a little cheaper this year.
Yep.
At what? And I always say, at what cost? I mean, honestly, you have to look at it and see what the cost is of all that.
And I love the advice of looking at the policy and going straight to the exclusion part, because that's what you really want to know. and then they'll put in those extra riders in there as well that you need to look out for. So
Yeah, because everything you really want is excluded.
right.
It's just how that's going to go unless you know what you're looking for.
That's right. All right, we'll take a break. We'll be right back with Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. Don't go anywhere. Number 5. All right, we're back. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell, building damage experts, every Saturday on iHeartRadio, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m., and on every streaming platform you can think about, from Spotify to iTunes, and even on YouTube and on our own website, contractortalkpodcast.com, and right here on Facebook. What up? And so if you're just now listening to us on the radio, then you can flip over to our Facebook page and actually see it in action here. We've got Hans Dapper Suit of the Week. Every week it's a different suit. We have a new guest, André with Central Florida Property Claims. Definitely very slick, very suave. You'd want to check in and check out André. He's given out his digits already and his email address and website. If you do need a public adjuster here in the Central Florida area, give André a call. André, how do we reach you?
Yeah, my direct number is 321-977-1388. And you can also visit CFLclaims.com, submit a form, and we'll reach out to you directly.
Right, and that's what's great about calling a public adjuster, because how much is it going to cost me as an insured to call you and say, review my policy, tell me what I'm covered for, look at my damage, am I good?
Yep, $0.
Nothing.
Unless we get you money, you don't owe us anything. We're here to help, whether it's just review your policy or check out damage. If you're concerned about something, it's rather be safe than sorry.
And what does that call if they decide, if an insurer decides or anyone decides to sign up with you, what is the cost of those services?
Yeah, so it's just standard 20% public adjusting fee, but once again,
Well, no recovery, no fee, right? So
once again, if we do not produce any money for you, then nothing at all.
Good. All right.
yeah, so really you have nothing to lose here. I mean, if you put together a full documented package and submit it to the insurance company, and for some reason there's a technicality or there's no coverage and the whole thing is dropped, zero cost to you, the insured, to see whether or not you have a valid claim. But you usually won't get that far with professionals like yourself. You're going to come out and you're going to be right on. I was going to say dead to nuts with the homeowner and just tell them, like, hey, listen, like, either I'm able to help you and you have a solid claim, or you don't, and we're not going to submit this for you.
Yeah, absolutely. The one of my best lines to my clients is, as much as I don't want to waste your time, I also don't like to work for free. So if you don't have a claim that I think is going to be successful at a very high percentage, then hey, maybe it's best we walk away.
That's right.
I mean, I do the same thing with what I tell people about a contingent fee agreement, because some people hear about, oh, I think you take my money kind of thing. And I said, well, without me, you probably can't get anyone to represent you unless you pay someone by the hour. I said, in reality, is what it does is it makes us partners in the claim. So if I think it's now, if you call me and I say, well, ma'am, give me $5,000 and let me see if you have a decent claim. And I call you back and go, I'm sorry, you don't have a good claim. Well, that just cost you $5,000. I said, but if we're in this on a contingent basis together, we're partners. We're literally partners. You help me, I'll help you.
I'm going to steal that. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
That's
a good
great.
one. I love that one.
It really is.
Because I don't win if you don't win. We're truly in this together. We're a team of two to be one. We have to take this claim forward. And so I need stuff from you. You need stuff from me. I said, but yeah, we're partners. And that's why you should trust the contingent fee agreement. Is there's no upside to me to work on this claim if I think it has no value, unless I'm billing you by the hour, and then I'm going to investigate every possibility, keep your $5,000 and call you and go, no, you have no claim.
Right. Here's my bill for the hours I spent on
Here's my
that.
bill. And otherwise we can be partners, or you can write me a check.
That's right. I would rather, like I've always said, I'd rather sign a contract and a contingency fee agreement rather than a check to pay somebody, just for that reason right there. You're right. I mean, you're partners at that point. If the claim doesn't pay, none of us get paid. And we shy away from the fraudsters to ensure that the regular claim filing folks are not ones that we work with. I mean, the guys or the gals that will file 5 or 6 claims and not use the proceeds from the insurance to actually fix their property. And we'll see that when you start to get with an insured and you submit it and then you get all these red flags from the insurance company. We've done that several times. We are a high volume based company with their quality assessors, but we'll take in a claim and we get an initial response and it's like, this person has filed 3 claims in the past 2 years and still not replaced anything. Here you are doing inspection on the roof where they've already been paid twice for the roof. and it's like, okay, retract, we're done. You owe me nothing. Have a great day, and then you run because you didn't know at first that you have a serial claim file.
Claimant. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
We all get those. Oh, so what happened? Well, they have 5 claims, and I'm always like, 5 for what? They're all for the roof. You're like, well, like what? They're like 1 a year. I'm like, no.
Man, they told me nothing.
No. I'm like, no, we can't help that.
Yeah.
I told we was talking about the insurance is there for a reason. It's not a warranty plan, not a maintenance product.
Right.
It's none of those things. I mean, certainly if you need it, that's why it's there. But it's really, if you're making a claim every year and getting turned down, the odds of them giving in and finally approving your claim go down every time you make a claim, not up.
For sure.
I mean, it really people. Well, I made 4 different claims over the last 2 years, like you said, for 2 years for the roof. I'm like, what happened? Well, we had a really bad storm. I said, and what happened? Well, we had a really bad storm. And what happened? We had a really bad storm. I'm like, was there any damage to us? Well, I don't know. I said, why did you make the claim? They're like, because it was a really bad storm. I mean, you get into this circular argument with some folks about the claim. And I said, well, you realize, and then sometimes they'll withdraw the claim. When it gets to along the denial process, they'll withdraw the claim. So then you're still stuck because they make one and then they take it back.
Yeah, it's even worse.
And then they do that once or twice. Then they call me and I'm like, what'd you do? Well, I withdrew the claim. So you acknowledge that you essentially should not have made it. I mean, it ends up just going bad.
That's fun.
I
I mean, like I said, I mean, there are some serial claim filers out there you want to stay away from. But it begs a question, and it's like, because there are some unlucky people. I was talking to somebody in Colorado, and their house got hit by hail twice within 1 year period, 11 months apart. You got the roof replaced, put it on there, and 11 months later, a new hailstorm came by, 2.5, 3 inch hail, and did everything again. He filed the claim and said, I'm selling the house. I swear to God, I'm sorry, insurance agent. My bad. I didn't mean, it was like that. That's an unlucky guy, right?
Yeah.
Now, here, if you're curious on, if you have to file a claim, file a claim. If you file 2 in 1 year, it is what it is, or whatever. But what claims count against you and what don't, right? And this is a good question you'd want to know. If it's a hurricane claim, a natural disaster, a hurricane comes by, and you have to file a claim, that claim does not count against you on your loss runs. Meaning, if you're going to another insurance company, they say, how many claims have you had the past 3 years? If it was only one hurricane claim, you say 0. If it was one pipe claim or, some other claim, non-hurricane related claim, then you count that.
And all I would suggest, Richie, is I'd be cautious to put 0 if you had a claim. I realize it doesn't go against loss run. And loss runs, for those who don't know, are when the insurers look at your prior losses. They run a list of your prior losses to determine whether or not they think you're a good risk. I know, like State Farm, if you have 3 losses, I think their policy said 3 losses in 3 years, they can just drop you, even if you're not at fault. And I had someone come to me and they had 2 auto accidents that weren't their fault, and then they had their own claim. And State Farm dropped them. And this is years ago, and I didn't even know it back then. But their policy says you have 3 claims in 3 years, your fault or not, we can non-renew you. Which is, and that's what they did. They said, and he goes, well, but they weren't my fault. I'm like, well, man, the policy says they're allowed to do it. And State Farm was like, essentially we said, you're unlucky. We're not interested in having you on our team anymore because you're unlucky. And so you got to be careful with that too. Like I said, on the situation in Colorado you mentioned, makes sense. I mean, it's 11 months apart. It's a substantial storm. It's not like they made a claim that got denied, then they had another claim that got denied, then another claim for hail that got denied. I mean, those are legitimate claims, and those are unfortunate, but
Yeah, I've got a lot of homeowners that become accidental serial filers because they'll file a hurricane claim,
right?
Think it doesn't count and think they didn't even get anything for the claim, but they just had a high deductible, so they find out that, hey, actually there was damage omitted, and then when they go to file a second claim down the road, they're saying, okay, well, what about the repairs? And the homeowner's saying, well, what repairs? I didn't even have any. There's no payment made. And then you get into that whole debate. You didn't do the repairs.
If it's under deductible, or they'll say your claim's worth $2,000, but your deductible is $2,500. You're still supposed to spend the $2,000.
Correct.
I mean, because whatever they say needs to be repaired should be repaired. A lot of people just go, well, I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah, or I didn't know.
Right. And that's why you need a public adjuster, because think about it. If you think that your damages are small and under deductible and it's just a roof, but what about the yellow stain inside? What about the insulation upstairs, up above that? What about the floor that could have gotten wet from that loss? You need to have it fully inspected by a professional, by a public adjuster for sure, to make sure you're getting every dollar that you deserve. We'll take a break here on Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. I'll be right back.
I'll mention during that.
All right, we're back. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell, building damage experts, live every Saturday on iHeartRadio, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m., and live right here on Facebook World and on everywhere you stream. Everywhere you like to stream, on Spotify, iTunes, even YouTube. We have our videos and audio on YouTube, especially on our Facebook page, on our website, contractortalkpodcast.com. Videos, audio, everything that you'd want to know about, our email address, how to reach us. And even if you want to do your own podcast here in Central Florida, this room is available. Reach out to us if you do want to shoot, record, or just do the audio for your own podcast. We'll be happy to talk with you about it. Send us an email there. Go to our website, contractortalkpodcast.com. Reach out to us. We'll be happy to get you on the schedule so you can do your own podcast. Now, if you want to be on our podcast here, same way, you send us an email and say, I want to be a guest on the show, or I have some feedback, or I have a question, a comment, concern. We'd love for you to talk about on the show, and they'll be listening to it on the next Saturday, so to hear how it comes. So we do the show on Tuesdays before Saturday, because iHeart isn't open on the weekends, so we do it here on Tuesday. Send the audio over to iHeart, and they play it every Saturday, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. So, again, if you have a question, it'll be 1 week prior, so as one will get to, or 1 week behind, either way. Anyways, all right, so we have a special guest here today, André with Central Florida Property Claims. He's a public adjuster here in Central Florida. If you're dealing with an insurance claim, you have a question about an insurance type of loss or what's covered under your policy, or even if something in the past year where you're thinking like, maybe that's covered under my policy. I don't know. Maybe I should file a claim. Maybe I won't. André is the man to call. He is local here in Central Florida. Be happy to help. How can we get a hold of you, André?
Yeah, contact me directly. My cell phone number is 321-977-1388. You can also visit our website at cflclaims.com.
Awesome. And our in-house resident attorney here with Morgan & Morgan, Hans Kennon. Easy to reach him. Everybody sees the billboards. Everybody knows how to reach Morgan & Morgan, I think.
It is, but I'd rather have you get hold of me directly.
There you go.
It's a big place with a lot of phones and a lot of people. My cell phone is 407-782-0258. That's 407-782-0258. As Richie said, I always recommend you take your phone out and put in my name. It's Hans, H-A-N-S, Kennon, K-E-N-N-O-N. Put in the word lawyer and put that cell phone number in, 407-782-0258. Need a lawyer for anything, you give me a call.
I mean, honestly, you can just put in Hans. I mean, who has anybody else in their contacts named Hans?
It is rare, like Cher, Madonna. It's kind of a similar.
I don't think I have a Cher in my phone book.
Yeah, see, there you go.
Yeah, not that old, but anyways. But do you have Bonnie?
And Clyde? I don't know.
No, that was it.
Bonnie Raitt? I don't know.
I was going with that. All right. Anyways, but all right. So how old can we go? I don't even know. All right. So, but if you have a question about your policy, we were talking about these weird limitations.
Ooh, yes.
Right. So there are different things that can FUBAR your policy. Right. You've got exclusions.
Mm-hmm.
You've got limitations.
Yeah.
What else we were saying on the break time? There are other parts on the policy. There's riders.
There's conditions, which is a little different than limitations. Condition is you have to provide us information when we ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
Limitation would be is we'll provide coverage for that, but we limit what we're going to pay or how we're going to pay. You have exclusions, which means we're not going to pay you anything. Does there have to be a value or something? Do I have to give up? Am I getting a discount for a limitation versus an exclusion? And will that hold water if they don't give any exchange for this limitation? Well, essentially, every time your policy renews, your insurer is entitled to make changes to the policy as long as you're made aware of it through some documentation. Sometimes they change policies. They don't actually tell you, but they'll send you the pages out of the policy, which either come in a very thick or very thin envelope. I find sometimes they send you the whole policy. You're like, oh, honey, we got a new policy. Put that with the other policy, and you and you never look at it.
Right.
Or like State Farm doesn't send you policies; they only send you the pages that change. They use that like weird onion skin, like drug runners use to like wash off their customer list, and then they just send you updates. So you got a really
I'm
thin.
pretty sure they're the
from
mafia. I mean, the State Farm is a mafia. I'm pretty sure.
But that's really,
I can see that.
That's really only Richie's opinion.
I get their policies always upside down.
Right.
Never right side up. It's
and
always
it's weird.
upside
It's
down.
weird. It's on this odd paper. It's not full size. It really is. It's almost designed to be hard to read. It's almost like onion skin paper.
Right.
They'll send you these endorsements and things in it. You're supposed to put those endorsements with your policy from years ago. And a lot of people have gotten a policy from State Farm in years because they just endorse it. So with all that said, what they typically do is they want consideration, which is they want to pay you or give you a discount for that exclusion or for that limitation, because it makes it easier for them later to go back and say, oh, they took that right from me. No, sir. We purchased that right from you by giving you a premium discount, whether you really know it or not. That's why they just take it or just change the policy on you.
So that would seem to exist for exclusions because they're taking something away in consideration or exchange for something, which would be that consideration discount.
But limitations can also give you a premium discount because you're accepting a lower possibility of percentage. Not just we're not paying this at all. We're going to say, look, we're going to sir, don't worry, you have coverage for this. It's like sewage overflow, right? That's typically limited to 5. Well, actually, it's limited to 0 unless you have an endorsement or a rider. And endorsements and riders are kind of the same thing. It just rides along. That's where that comes from. And like a toilet overflow or sewage backup is excluded unless it's put back into the policy by an endorsement or a rider that typically limits it to $5,000 or $10,000.
Right. So in exchange for this, and we're talking about a Florida Peninsula policy, I took a picture of this limitation. So you're saying that, and we use that $500,000 number. It's a nice, easy number, round even number to look at. They're limiting to 1% of the, we'll call it the matching portions or the undamaged portions of the material. For instance, in this case, there's a lot of water on the floor. The flooring is continuous through the entire kitchen, living room, and there's no break. As soon as you hit a break or a different floor, a different room that has a threshold, there you go, then you stop.
Well, even then, if it's the exact same material through the entire home, we've certainly argued many times successfully that the fact you can close a door, which is with the threshold, really the threshold is where there's a door. The fact I can close the door and not see it, when I open a door, I see it. I mean, so they're like, oh, it's like Wizard of Oz. It's like, oh, it's behind the door. Don't worry about it. And you're like, oh, no, when I open a door, I can look and go, well, this tile's like this and that tile's like that. So the threshold, while utilized by the insurer, is kind of an easy way to cabin in the available material. Often we've argued that if that's the same material as what's right under that threshold, you got to get the whole thing, man.
Right, and it should be like, kind, color, and material.
Yes.
And in these cases, when the floor has been down for 20 plus years, there's no way to match the same kind of material, same likeness, color, and all that kind of stuff. So then you go into replacement mode, because if you just repair that, then you're looking at a Frankenstein floor. You're looking at Frankenstein kitchens. And the reason why I say that is because they're now limiting this $500,000 policy. This lady has a great policy. It was actually more than $500,000 what she has it for, but they're limiting it to 1%. So it's saying, ooh, look at the flooring. Definitely looks expensive. We're going to cover all the damaged flooring, but we're going to limit you to $5,000 to match the remaining portions of your floor. Wait, what? $5,000 is only gave me a smaller, or is that another portion of the floor replacement, but I'm still going to have a Frankenstein patch that's not going to match, but that conflicts against policy. So my question, I guess, is to Hans, should we be looking for a discount that was given for this special limit of liability matching?
Again, as we would say, it depends. If the insurer, at the time of renewal, the insurer is entitled to amend or change the policy. Arguably, they don't have to even give you notice of it because you're deemed to read things that are sent to you. So, but they typically do. They typically try to make it so that it doesn't turn into something worse than it needs to be. But at the time of renewal, the insurer is entitled to change your policy without necessarily paying you for anything. But in this case,
but if they're taking away a ton of coverage, they're taking away 99% of your coverage.
Which is why they will give you a discount, because when you complain, they can go, well, sir, we took $250 off your. I mean,
right. So in this particular policy, we need to look for a discount on that, and I think it's something that we may be onto. So we're going to take a break here, give some thanks to our sponsors. We'll be right back. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. All right, we're back live on Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell, building damage experts, every Saturday on iHeartRadio, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m., and live right here on Facebook. Every Tuesday right here, we record it on Facebook live. If you want to check in and see Hans' Dapper Suit of the Week,
there we go.
If you want to see what's going on here with our special guest, then go over to our Facebook page, and you can see the video right there. As we record it, the podcast, we separate the audio, shoot it over to iHeartRadio and every streaming platform you can think about. So check us out on Spotify, on YouTube, iTunes, anywhere you can stream. Check us out there. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. We have a guest today, André, with Central Florida Property Claims, and of course Hans Kennon with Morgan & Morgan. We're chopping it up here on consumer rights as a result, as it looks to policy on what is covered and what isn't covered, and it's still a lot of question marks. These policies that are given today are just crazy, and it's very difficult to understand. And I know, André, you're having a lot more of a difficult time explaining to these homeowners what these stereo instructions mean when they get this 100-page policy, and it's so hard to read and understand. What are the typical questions you get on a daily basis when, you know, folks are just trying to figure out what they're going to do with their life claim wise? And if you can kind of, maybe that'll spark some interest from the people that are listening right now of when people do call you, what major questions you get that you can help the consumers out with.
Yeah, I'll say an important question people need to know, especially when you're dealing with roof claims. We do probably 80% roof claims. Just being, naturally here being in Florida,
right?
Is they always ask, I don't just want repairs, right? Repairs don't look good. They don't help the value of the home. So right. They say, well, I don't want anything unless I can do a full roof replacement. So we always explain to the homeowners that that's the reason you hire us, is so that when your insurance company, because they will send you a repair estimate, then we can say, okay, well, this is why this should not be a repair estimate, and we push that to the full roof replacement. So right. We're here to help you to make sure that you put through the process and getting what is fair in the situation. And then if, once again, for some reason we can't, then we're going to go ahead and get somebody like Hans involved and make sure that we're getting into the best result. That's right.
And as a consumer, if I had a roof claim, the only way I usually would know if there's roof damage is if I look up inside of my home and in my ceiling and I see a yellow stain, right? And if you have just a roofer, which I love roofers, we have tons of roofers on here as guests, and they really help consumers out. They really know roofs well. So they're going to submit an estimate for the roof. But what about the yellow stain? What about the insulation? What about the possibility of water migrating down any of the chases, let's say where the cable runs through or anything, and then now they're in the floor and the cabinets and other hidden areas that weren't identified by the roofer? Well, are you going to go out and get an estimate for a drywall guy, the painter, an insulation guy, a flooring person, and all of these things?
Yeah. So the great thing about working with the public adjuster is we're basically the claims manager, right? So we're gonna take every part of your claim, we're gonna build it in the platform that.
So no insurance. 3 estimates as the insurance company always say, go get 3 estimates for every service, and you're like, what?
Yeah,
I was
absolutely.
Bring it up actually about whether they're entitled to. We always discuss the fact that they're really not entitled to make you go find 3 estimates for stuff.
Really not.
Yeah, no, definitely. Especially when they're asking you to build the estimate through Xactimate, which they want you to do, right? So that's what your public adjuster is going to do, is we're going to build your estimate for the roof, for the interior. If there's mold, then we're going to get the correct parties involved.
So wait, they don't need a contractor, a drywall guy, a painter. You're going to do all the estimates. Absolutely. One call does it all, pretty much.
One call does it all. If we need expert advice, we'll bring in the good guys that we trust. We'll refer the best people, and then whoever they choose is up to them. But at the end of the day, yeah, we're here to make sure that every part of the claim is being done correctly, and that the experts that are the expert roofers, and we'll refer to them and say, hey, explain to me why you can't do a repair on this. Because at that point, I'm going to put together my estimate for the full roof replacement and say, here, here's the estimate and here's the reason why it's there.
That's right.
You guys need to pay.
By a licensed professional roofer here in the state of Florida that could talk about why that is. And it could be a building code like situation. Like I mentioned, Florida building codes suggest that if damage has occurred to a roof that supersedes 25% is no longer able to be repaired. There's no way to tie in everything, especially when you have different slopes. You have sometimes shingles will tie into a flat roof, and there's just no way to make that repair. So if it hits more than 25%, you're in the state of Florida, Florida building code says it can't be repaired, it must be replaced. And so many people don't know that. And you're right, the insurance company will say, oh man, we see that you have $5,000 worth of repair to your roof. Your deductible $6,000 because it's hurricane. Have a great day, and we think that you are covered, but we're not going to write you a check because you're under deductible. And then when you go to renew your insurance company says, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not going to renew you because your roof is too old and you need to replace it.
Right, which is a great State Farm move, right? So they're sending out their non-renewals for your roof being 13 years old, 14 years old, and then saying, hey, we don't want to pay for it once it gets damaged, so go out of pocket and pay for it. And homeowners, we get homeowners all the time that call us for that. When you get a non-renewal for State Farm, call us because the chances are they're assuming there's damage on the roof. And if there is damage, we're going to go ahead and have State Farm pay for that.
I love that. And that's great. If you're listening now, and that's great advice, have a professional come out and somebody that's not going to just throw anything into the wind because that's just going to hurt you as the insured to file willy-nilly claims. But when you guys get in there, you're a professional company, you're going to look at the weather data for the last year, you're going to look at everything within the home to see if actual damage occurred under that policy period.
Right.
And if it didn't, it didn't. But if it did, damn it, we're going to go for it, and you're going to make sure that you get every dollar that you're owed, not more, definitely not any less. That's the power of using a public adjuster. And I think some organizations will state that you will be able to get 700% more, 700 times more using a public adjuster than you will yourself as an insured.
Yeah, so there was a study done that does say that. And I would say my experience working with the Hurricane Ian proved that more than anything. We worked a lot down in South Florida. We were dealing with homeowners that had estimates anywhere from, $3,000 to $10,000, and then we're settling their claims of upwards of $150,000. So they were, the insurance company was 10 times off on the estimate.
Wild.
Right?
Wild.
And how does that happen on almost every single claim there? Well,
that's wild.
Yeah.
I know a guy down in Punta Gorda who I befriended, and it was almost a year after a hurricane. He was just kind of plugging holes himself, making little repairs, and finally he called me and says, hey, I know you know a lot about this, and just really want some advice here. And so I own Air Quality Assessors. We're a licensed mold inspection company and a licensed engineering firm, and we also prepare estimates. And we said, listen, let me send my engineers out. Let me send our interior guys out. And we did a full study for him, environmental study, full engineering study, and gave him a full estimate. And he turned all those in because he owned those. He paid for the reports. He turned them in. And his independent adjuster wrote him an estimate within $10,000 of our estimate. It was like, we're talking about $80,000. They wrote like $78,000 or something like that. They were very close within. So I was like, you have a great, this is going great for you. You won't need an attorney. This is great. Seems like the IA that came out, the independent adjuster, that's represented by Citizens. Unfortunately, it was Citizens, and who you hired and paid for the estimate ended up being pretty well in line. You're going to have a great claim. And then a couple months later, he calls me and says, "You will not believe this." And I said, "I probably will, but go ahead."
Yeah.
And he reminded me it was Citizens, and I said, "Oh man, I'm sorry." He goes, "So what happened?" He goes, "They mailed me a check for $8,000." I go, "What?" Literally 10% to the dime. It was like 8,200, whatever like that. Literally 10% of his estimate that was turned in. So he started texting because he had a relationship with the IA, the independent adjuster hired by Citizens, which is usually a third-party company, a TPA.
Yep.
And that third-party administrator, the TPA, wrote up for that $78,000, and he was texting me and says, "Hey, I thought you wrote, why am I getting a check for $8,900 or whatever? I thought you wrote for $78,000, whatever, blah, blah, blah." He says, "I did write for $78,000. Let me find out what happened to the desk adjuster." He never heard from him again.
They found him dead.
Allegedly. And so what happened there was obviously what I'm imagining what happened is IA called the desk adjuster, and desk adjuster say, hey, listen, I don't approve your estimate. I'm only going to give them a smaller amount. And then, but we don't know what happened. So I told him, I said, listen, the law's changed. They have to give you that IA report within 7 days. So go ahead and request it.
Right. Yep.
He requested to the desk adjuster. The next day, desk adjuster calls him on the phone, doesn't put it in writing, and calls him on the phone and says, I'm not giving it to you. Like, what do you mean? He says, I'm not giving you the IA report. I'm not giving it to you. He goes, well, why'd you write me a check for $89,000 or $8,900? What's it for? He goes, don't worry about it. And literally hung up on him. That's our fine insurance industry here. We're going to take a break. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. We'll be right back. Last segment here. Amazing. All right, welcome back. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell, building damage experts, live every Saturday on iHeartRadio, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Here we are in our last segment here, and what a fast segment this has been, or a fast show this has been. Special guest today with André Kratt with Central Florida Property Claims. And it is going down for real here on the show, Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. Always great guest here. I always learn something new when we have a guest on the show. We've had plumbers, we've had roofers, we have drywall guys, and many different types of industry professionals that represent and consumers, homeowners, to help them get to the finish line if you have a claim. These are folks that you can call to help you, assist you. Even the AC guy that we've had on here, it's great to know that they have a warranty program also within. So if you're stuck on every Friday night or Saturday morning, it's only when your AC goes out. It's always on the weekends, the most inconvenient time. So we had Brian with Four Seasons on to talk about his business and every other different type of profession that can help you with this one time of loss that you have in your property claim. So always a great show. Again, go back and listen to prior shows, the roofers that we've had, the drywall guys, the plumbers. Great shows. And today with the public adjuster, good information. Today we're talking about these limits of liability, exclusions with the policy you may have. And it is getting worse. We know American Disintegrity has all these crap policy language in there that excludes and restricts homeowners from actually getting the real value of their coverage, which is wild because you buy, and now today you're spending $5,000, $6,000, $8,000 on a policy that's supposed to cover you for $400,000, $500,000, and you go to file a claim, and now you're finding out that, oh, well, we put in the policy that, oh man, this floor, I'm sorry, your $50,000 floor got messed up, but I'm going to give you $5,000, and all because this liability, a limit of liability, literally says we'll replace all the undamaged areas. Maybe,
right?
Maybe
first it has to be reasonable, and then even if it's reasonable, and even if it meets the other subparts of that provision are part from the statute. So even if you meet the statutory provisions, all of them, we're still going to limit our payment to 1% of coverage A.
Well, and who decides that? Who's the arbiter of that?
Well, the insurer initially is always going to be the arbiter of what is reasonable and whether or not you meet the statutory
So if I think it's reasonable and you don't think it's reasonable, who wins? And you're the policy owner. But I'm the policy owner because I bought the policy.
Well, I mean, from a straight up perspective, it could be typically a fact question with the jury because it says whether or not those repairs are reasonable. Before that would be pursuant to a judge's ruling if you find that you can claim that the provision is ambiguous or there's two interpretations, both of which are reasonable. At that point, then it defers back to the insured.
Right. I mean, I'm thinking it's a conflict against our Florida statute. And I don't see how the Florida statute says that your policy of insurance has to give you matching, has to give you like, kind, color, and material, and it must be uniform, it must be matching. And then a policy of insurance is sold to somebody, which conflicts against the statute. It's not right. It's unconstitutional. It's just there's so many things wrong with it. There's a conflict. So who wins? I mean, is it the policyholder that's just taking it on the chin?
Well, I mean, from a point of statutory construction, if it's ambiguous, then it is deemed to be covered. If the provision it cannot be determined by use of normal language, let's say,
like English,
then coverage is going to be afforded to the insured. Also, if there's two interpretations, both of which are reasonable, then it again goes to the insured.
Right. And
the insured does get the benefit of the doubt. I mean, the appellate courts won't rewrite policies, they won't rewrite provisions, but they'll interpret them. unless if it's clear and unambiguous, then it is, and whatever that determination is. If it is ambiguous, then you determine that it goes to the benefit of the insured.
Wow. I mean, it seems that the insured is...
But insured is stuck in the middle of this whole thing for as long as all that takes. And
Sure.
And usually through attrition, time, moving, events, a lot of those issues never get decided simply because the insured's like, fine, I just want to put my house back together. Let me move on.
Right.
See it time and time again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just had a client. It was a $150,000 claim. And because of just what's going on in Europe, she said, I have to go back to Europe right now and I have to take whatever I can get. So she accepted 20
Right.
opposed to 150.
Wow.
And the problem is too, when the insurer gets that, even though it's not for a good reason, it's not because they were right, none of those things. Anything that benefits them emboldens them, whether it's statutory changes by the governor, whether it's someone who has to go back to another country and they need what the money is. They're like, hey, that lady took 20. Nice. And then next time someone needs 150, they go, hey, try the 20 again.
Yep.
I mean, and it becomes kind of ingrained. I always say insurers can't help themselves.
They really
I
can.
had a discussion the other week when I had an adjuster, and we actually agreed that the price of the roof was, I think it was like $20,000. And he's like, I says, we agree it's reasonable. He goes, absolutely, 100%. Okay, pay me the 20, I'll pay you 16. And I'm like, but we agreed he goes, no, it's completely reasonable price.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'll pay you 16. I said, what we're agreeing. He goes, I know, but I'll pay you 16. I mean, that was just the mindset was once. That's like when they say, what's your bottom line? You have to lie. You have to be like, well, because they're never going to pay you that, even if it's reasonable. I've got all the time. I go, Hans, it's a completely reasonable offer. I'll pay you whatever, 80% of it. And I'm like, but we agree it's reasonable. He's like, yeah. I said, well, then we can't get it done today. And then a lot of times they'll back up and bring it back up to the number because they know it's fair.
Right.
There's not even a question. It's fair.
Yeah, and if you really want 20, then you're like, I guess my bottom's 30.
Right, and then you got to.
And they're like, all right, 10, and they're like, all right, let's split the baby at 20. And so
you have to do a lot of that. So even for an insured, if you're dealing with the insurer, and if you don't have a PA, or a public adjuster, or an attorney, and also you tell them exactly what you need to the nickel, they're not paying it to you.
And one thing is, if you're a consumer listening now, another benefit for a public adjuster is going to be that appraisal. If you're talking about getting to the finish line sooner than later,
appraisal.
It's getting the public adjuster to submit your claim. As soon as they open up coverage, the insurance company opens up coverage for that loss, then your public adjuster, if they have the package completed and they submitted the proof of loss, everything's done, boom, then you can absolutely, your adjuster will know if your policy states that if you invoke appraisal, then they have to name their appraiser, and you're going to that mediation a lot faster than you would outside of any other realm of collection, so to speak, like going to the public adjuster, getting a partial payment or coverage opened, and then you have to go to an attorney. You're going to end up taking another 6 months to 8 months, to get that settled once you get to an attorney. So if you want the fast road, then seeking appraisal through a public adjuster is going to be one way to get there. Is that something that you're doing for some of your clients today?
Yeah, absolutely. We love the appraisal process. A lot of companies still allow us to be the appraiser. So we can actually make it even smoother for the insured. But if we are dealing with just third-party appraisals strictly, we'll always do that for our insureds, because as you said, opposed to going to litigation for 6 to 9 months, we can get the same result a lot of times in appraisal in 60 to 90 days on the long end.
Yeah, much faster. And again, if you don't have a professional on your side as an insured, and the carrier shows up with an engineer report and a roofer report and all this stuff, then you're showing up to a gunfight with a knife.
Yeah.
So you really got to meet them where they are and have the expert reports in and have everything lined up to where you're able to combat them, toe to toe, with the same type of stuff. And so that's the value of having a public adjuster with you. And really, who wants to meet the adjusters on site and then go back for a second meeting and all this other stuff? It's like literally you guys handle all the scheduling, the phone calls. As a consumer, as soon as you sign a letter of representation with a public adjuster, you're done. There's no more phone calls, no more communication. You're done.
No going on the roof.
That's right. No going on the roof. And then we're going to end this segment here. I thank you, Andre. And one last time, how can they get a hold of you if they're just itching to get a public adjuster and they need you now? How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, thanks again for having me on. It was a great opportunity. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, everyone can contact me directly. Just give me a call or text on my cell phone number. It's 321-977-1388. And then you can also go to our website, cflclaims.com, submit a form, and we'll contact you within a day.
No charge to have your policy reviewed and the damages in your home reviewed to see if you qualify to file a claim and if it's going to benefit you, yes or no. Right?
Absolutely.
And you want to do it with somebody that's not going to just say, yeah, I'll get your claim filed for you, and they don't care about you. That's somebody you don't want to go to. So go to somebody you trust, like Andre with Central Florida Property Claims. Thank you so much, Hans Kennon, as well, for being here with Morgan & Morgan. Bing, bing, bing. I'll add it in there. And I'm your host, Richie Kidwell, Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. I'll talk to you guys next week. See you.